Hello everyone, this is Talisman Skulls answering straightforward questions. Um, this particular question actually did just recently come in, and well, most of them recently came in the last couple of days. But this one just a little bit ago, while I was making the previous video. And this is that they reviewed the Sidutru information. They were asking a little bit more about the association of Viking. Well, the word to go a Viking meant to go on a travel, and it didn't always mean go on a raid. The ones that presented the concept of Vikings as bloodthirsty sea pirate type figures was largely the monks themselves. Much of the archaeology does not support those claims, but a lot of people in the so-called revivalist movements refer to things as the so-called Viking religion. And that's just nonsensical. It really is. To go a Viking literally meant to go on a journey, to go on a travel, to go on an expedition in original context. From, again, what I was saying before, the word Vik meaning to move or travel. So, and then the suffix ing means belonging to, literally. So clearly, one who belongs to travel, one who is a traveler, an explorer, an adventurer. And while, yeah, that involves warfare and everything else, sometimes with some groups involve raids or whatever, it has to be understood, too, that at the time there was a lot of chaos then. And so there is no one-sided view there. There was bullshit going on both sides. And people were reacting like people react. If they feel like they're being oppressed, they're going to fight back. If they feel like they're being pressured underfoot, they're going to retaliate. And that's pretty much what we have going on back and forth across the board. In a lot of ways, a lot of native cultures felt that people that were at that particular time were trespassing on their sacred sites. And the truth of the matter is they were. And so as a result, they sacked them, nailed them, burned, whatever, took whatever. And you also got to understand too, if your people are starving and your whole culture is basically falling apart around you. The same thing as being comfortable living in today's American society. And all of a sudden, another foreign nation comes in, completely decimates everything, starts pushing your concept of what it means to be American to its final point. You've got one of two choices. You either accept a new government imposed on you, or you have to fight to the bitter end. And that's really the real deal with a lot of the stuff going on there. No one can justify or fault anyone when it comes right down to the bottom lines of warfare, especially at the time. Anybody who's ever been in the service before can tell you, war is not anything glorious. It's certainly not something to celebrate. And the bottom line is, the best warrior is one that can stay home, because there's no battles going on. And that's really the actual, real, fundamental factor that's left out of the equation by a lot of these so-called revivalists on one end, and then the others that continuously try to paint the bloodthirsty, stupid barbarians that couldn't read or write, coming in to rape, pillage, burn the village, and sack the innocent churches and the harmless monks. Not all those monks were harmless like they portray themselves to be. So, it's one of those more persecuted than thou scenarios also being written. And certainly that there were some that were actually probably pretty nice people. Just, they thought that they were doing, divine work or whatever, and that's fine. But if you got a culture that feels like they're being encroached upon, they don't really care how nice you are, because they don't fucking know you. And as far as they come in, when they come in and see you there, representing something that has essentially destroyed their identity, the only thing that they're thinking of is vengeance. That's the dark side of human nature we all have got to acknowledge. And that's one of the reasons why I don't go for romanticists on one end, and I certainly don't go for the exaggerations on the other. And that's where I take the middle ground, where I try to actually put things in perspective and kind of try to put my mind in the different positions and see how would I react from those different points of view. And then when I look at that, and then I look at scholars again, who've actually pretty much just told, pretty much say the same thing constantly I just told you in this video. It pretty much just reinforces more for myself, at least, that I've been on the right track and I've been properly evaluating a lot more things more keenly than most people care to try or attempt. But then again, considering the fact that as a Warlock by title, and its meaning needs to protect the bonds, but also to defend the luck using the well-being of things, and to be, a careful watcher of the things, a supervising watcher, more or less. That means I have become, in my own way, oath-bound, not only by the very principle of the identity of the word Sidutru, but Sidutru and the concept of Warlock and its actual meaning are synchronized in that respect as well. Because this is a personal oath to myself, and as a personal oath to myself to be truthful in all these things, from what I actually do know consistently, not just something I found one day, passerby, wrote it down, thought it sounded interesting, it struck my fancy, and then said, okay, I accept that. That's it. I don't do that. In fact, if I made errors and somebody said, no, listen, I totally agree with the rest of the stuff, but here's the one particular thing I want you to take a look at, I'll take a look at it. And then I'll cross-reference the source material, and I'll pick that shit apart, and then I'll come back and say yay or nay, So I do actually listen to other people, but 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening is the fact that I do stand my ground on what I have verified, whereas I don't stand my ground on something I haven't verified. But where I have actually verified it in several different angles and ways, I stand directly and firmly by it, which is something most people just don't have the balls or guts or decency to do. They're all about trying to make other people happy, or the whole agree to disagree nonsense, which in itself is kind of condescending. And it doesn't actually get anything solved. It just keeps it going, because the reality is either you're both wrong or only one of you are right. And that's pretty much how it is. You can try to skate around it or whatever, but hey, get over yourself on that one. But see, that's also the significant difference between respect and literally just tolerate whatever. Doesn't matter if you get kicked in the face, whatever. Just be completely tolerant of everything. That's unrealistic. That is unrealistic, that is unacceptable, and that is not the way to live life. If you're living life in a bubble, you never know a damn thing. You just grow up and die stupid. And that's pretty much how it is. As to what actual cultural traditions demonstrate as far as what beliefs in the afterlife is like, there's only about 3 key things that are held in common with all of these factors, that are not just unique to Europe. They're everywhere. And that all falls back into basically 3 basic concepts. And that's the possibility to be reborn in another life sometime later or immediately, whatever the case may be. It's not up to you, it's up to the way of things, the higher, or the highest authorities, as it were. Several possibilities for an afterlife, for a time, at least. and that some of them were not very nice, and some of them were very pleasant. Almost like a place of complete living in a bubble, floating on, whatever, clouds. Essentially a heaven-type state in the modern context, even though the actual word heaven had the meaning of simply up above, meaning the sky. But it's not, metaphorically, it's not wrong. Literally it is, and that's where people get hung up on their different stupid debates between theology and atheism or whatever. They go back and forth. They get hung up on the idiocy of not understanding the metaphor that up above meant a higher state, not necessarily literally at the top of the rocks, And that's actually true too. And it has nothing to do with the modern concept of understanding of things. There's a lot of ancient people that actually understood, for one, that the earth was round. The whole flat earth thing actually didn't come about until the Protestants. And that's actually a dirty little fact. Most people don't seem to grasp. Most people understood that the world was round, and while other cultures had metaphors that were from much older sources, until they figured it out in ancient times. So they kept the symbolism and the spiritual significance while updating their understanding of things, and that is the key difference most just don't tend to comprehend. So, with that being said, pretty much everything else, like I said before, that we practice today in the modern world has far more roots that stretch all the way back to time immemorable. We don't know all that, but we know for a fact that a lot of these traditions are very old because they are shared so widely. So that's just another principle for people to chew on. And they may not like the flavor of it, and they can always spit it out and not accept it, or go to another brand of stuff that's tastes sweet, but isn't the real thing. I'm Dallas Smith Skulls. This is Warlock Talk. I'll talk to you later.